Hi, I'm Alex, and I love going to the movies. And today, I have a super exciting movie to talk to you about. It is my most anticipated movie of maybe the entire year, right alongside One Battle After Another from Paul Thomas Anderson, and that is Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. Bam! Sunglasses explode. Mission Impossible 2 reference, nailed it. I didn't even mean to do that. I'm here in Forsyth Park just on a walk today, and I said, "Oh shoot, I haven't done that Mission Impossible review. I was gonna do it when I get home, but if there's a movie that deserves to just have a review out in the park, let's do it. It's this. I could do the Lilo and Stitch one out here too. It's so nice. Maybe I will. That one would be more suited for a beach. I've been to the beach past 2 days, so I went to the beach the day that I saw Lilo and Stitch, but I don't know if I will today. But I'll do it, or I'll talk about it here. Anyway, starting with Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, because I did see that as the first half of a double feature yesterday, a two-theater double feature. Not every day you do that, but you'll have to understand, I am an AMC A-lister, so I'm not paying human money to go see Lilo and Stitch. I did pay human money to go see Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning on the world's tallest IMAX at the Royal Cinemas 14 here in Savannah, Pooler, Georgia. And what did I think? Okay, this movie is the eighth movie in a franchise that throughout the first five movies was not too interested or all that concerned with how they connected to one another. This one is very much so concerned about wrapping all of these loose ends up. And for that much, it was the part of the movie that did not work the most for me. So let's start off with the good though, and that is the stunts and the action. Everything in this movie relating to action is the best you'll see all year. You might not see any better action in any movie all year. This probably will not end up being my favorite action movie of the year. I don't know if I'd consider Warfare an action movie. If I did, I'd already say it's the best action movie of the year. If not, this is the best action movie of the year so far. But I would hope that something better would come out because it's not flawless and it is missing that precision that Mission Impossible, Ghost Protocol, Rogue Nation, Fallout, and Dead Reckoning all had. 4 through 7 are objectively the class of action of their day. They all are the best action movie until the next one. You know what I mean? Like in like all of cinema. And they all do things that really revolutionize and set the bar. And not to say that this movie doesn't. It's just 2 hours and 50 minutes long, and I'd say there's a solid half hour that could be cut, or it even needs to have stuff added to it to make more sense. Because as it is, this is just edited to try to make the most sense out of what is here. But like, there's a whole subplot with Luther in the first half of this movie that if you're an actual fan of this franchise, you're not really going to care for it all. I can't imagine anybody enjoying or liking the way that Luther is handled in this film. It feels a lot like a Fast and Furious movie or a late era Bad Boys movie, where, or even like post Skyfall Bond, like Spectre and No Time to Die, where it's like concerned with his past and it's concerned with his love for the team and how at this point his biggest flaw is that he can't let anybody on the team die. But at the same time, it's never really been about the characters that you're here for. And if it was, it's like Elsa and Luther, who are not anywhere to be found after the first act of this movie. So you really only have Benji, and the people like Paris and Grace are fun additions because I like the actresses, but the actual characters you also don't feel all that much towards. So I felt a real weird disconnect in the fact that this one really wanted you to care so much about these characters, but they just had not built them up in a way that earned this like Fast and Furious family type focus. And with a focus on that and the convoluted nature of the story, it just really dragged it down into not being anywhere near as good as the other ones. But that being said, comparison is a thief of joy. There's two action sequences in this, like go on for a solid 15-20 minutes both, that are absolutely breathtaking. One of which is unlike anything they've ever done in this franchise before, and it's like the most stress-inducing one. It's like genuinely like tense, and it's only halfway through the movie, but you're still thinking, is he gonna die? What's gonna happen here? And it's underwater, and it is just it's crucial to this movie's success, because up until that point, I'd be hard pressed to say there was anything that I really was taking as something I truly enjoyed, because I was just so distracted by all the editing choices and the choices to show so many flashbacks of the previous movies. But then I also almost feel, and this is kind of spoilers from here on out, I've kind of said my positives, I've kind of said my negatives, so here on out there'll be spoilers for the most part. I would give this movie a 3.5 out of 5. If you don't want the spoilers, you can click off now. That's what I would give it. But moving on into spoilers, there's just stuff that's like, with this entity, makes me think that they're using the past clips to show how the entity would be viewing that sort of thing, and how different situations throughout the rest of these movies, or like the final two movies, reflect the previous movies, like The Train and Dead Reckoning Part 1 reflecting the original, and how things can be similar to the others but not like quite the same, and a commentary on the derivative nature but error of AI. I'm not sure if I'm looking into that too much. That's one reading that I could see as to why that would be the case, but overall, for the most part, I just thought that it was weird and showed way too much of the old movies and just had really jarring editing. Kept reminding us of stuff that was said like 20 minutes prior, like that sort of editing. And like, I've heard people complain about that with Sinners. It didn't bother me as much with Sinners. It really aggravated the stew out of me in this one. But yes, now that we're in spoilers, I can say the Sevastopol submarine action sequence, whenever the missiles are all going around underwater, that's unlike anything we've seen in this franchise before, and it's one of the coolest underwater stunts I've ever seen. It's right up there with the ending of Avatar: The Way of the Water, and I thought that that was just so cool and revolutionary for them to do that it got me all the way locked right back in. And then the amazing third act. The trailers don't even sell you on half as amazing as it is, and seeing it in the world's tallest IMAX, yeah, that plane shit was extraordinary. And at the end of the day, that's why this will put itself, I've just gotten to 50 2025 releases on the year in May. I know, shocked. But I've seen 50 movies this year, and as many complaints as I have, that's just because this is, at the end of the day, my favorite movie series of all time. And there was a standard that I expected from it, and it didn't quite reach that. But like I said, it's still a 3.5 out of 5, which is better than most movies this year, which is the truth. And it also, as much as I really enjoy, and I honestly had less negative things to say about movies like Hard Eyes, Companions, The Accountant 2 even, this movie is something that I will remember the good parts more. The good parts are better, and the lasting impact is so important. What Tom Cruise did by making this movie is going to be something I remember way longer than any of those movies. As much as I don't have as many complaints about them, it's just because I love this franchise that I have so many complaints that it didn't necessarily nail it or stick the landing the way I wanted, but it still did stick the landing. And it did so in a way that was a lot of fun to watch. But really, it existed to give him the chance to do one last, and not even last, because he's going to keep doing crazy shit in other movies, but with this franchise, with this character, one last, like, crazy ass Buster Keaton, Jackie Chan action comedy spectacle. And I saw it in a sold out IMAX theater with a bunch of old people who had their walkers getting into this gigantic IMAX theater that you need to take an escalator to, and they were hooting, they were gasping. It was doing what it needed to do, and that was a blast to experience in a packed theater. So it did exactly what it needed to do. It wrapped up this story. It did leave the door open for more, and in 10 years, if they decide to do another, let him come back and do another. I do not recommend doing a spin-off without Tom Cruise. This isn't even John Wick. This world is not as interesting as you think it is. It is the Tom Cruise stuff that makes it the best franchise ever. And like, you know what I'm saying? That sounds like an oxymoron if I say it's my favorite franchise, but this world's not as interesting as you think it is. It's the same as Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones is one of my 5 favorite franchises. Why would you ever try one without Harrison Ford? This one just would make no sense. It would just become a random spy movie, and all the stuff without Tom Cruise in this movie is boring enough to tell you why they shouldn't do it. So yeah, that's my last word complaint. All like Nick Offerman, Hannah Waddingham, all those introductions of those people, not Holt McCallany because I love him, so shout out Holt McCallany. But all those random character actors felt like such weird ham-fisted inclusions. Angela Bassett made more sense because she was the president and because she was introduced in the franchise before in a meaningful way. But they were all just so disconnected from the actual what we're there for that I hated any time it cut to them. And like the actual Nick Offerman and Hannah Waddingham stuff not only felt like stunt casting, it was like just pointless side characters that only had like one purpose to serve. And I don't know, that didn't work for me as much, but maybe it will on a second watch. I hate to be so ignorant and say that I really didn't like something like that, but specifically that stuff did not work for me. So tell me what you think in the comments if you saw Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. I thought Tom Cruise just fucking crushed it with the stunts, and the magic of the movies was on full display. So let me know what you think. I'll be doing a Mission Impossible ranking soon, and a Lilo and Stitch review to look forward to as well. Thanks for watching, everyone.